What's up, Team KBA? One Tech Traveler here. This is Last Shelter and you're joining me in Season 5, Week 5. And that means, yes, another SX hero drop. I think a lot of people have been really eyeing this small port. And the reason being is this one. Yep, it's got pretty much the best vehicle hero that you can get, which is at the back, Kamikaze. And he's mixed in with 3 other featured heroes that are also solid, and we'll obviously talk about them. Organic for vehicles, Rose Noir for shooters, and Prophet for fighters. So that means the final 2 in this pool is the Patriots and Lone Wolf. So a very interesting pool. Now, I've kind of been thinking a lot of this drop because while it is one that is highly anticipated and Kamikaze definitely bolsters up the overall quality in here, Kamikaze is going to be the single top pick of this hero drop, followed by Prophet that I rate in the highly rated line, with Organic, who kind of borders the highly rated, very solid sort of levels, with Rose Noir in the very solid list, Lone Wolf being the lowest, and then the Patriot I think would just be on a decent level. We have 2 vehicle heroes, which is Kamikaze and Organic. We have 2 fighters, which is Prophet and Lone Wolf, and then we have 2 shooters, Rose Noir and Patriot. So it's balanced across the troop types. Vehicle shooter fighter quality, I think I would place the vehicle quality at a 9. I've kind of been giving out ace in the previous drops just to change it up, but honestly, Kamikaze is just that strong. I've seen him in the battle reports and just some of the hits with bases and also just tiles. He is crazy. No matter who you have in the mid or the back, Kamikaze is just such a strong front row hero that he is going to significantly upgrade your APC. He is going to be at that 9, and with Organic still being a great baseline, I think it's done enough to make vehicles very strong in this drop. Then we have shooters, which is Rose Noir and Patriot. I would give it a 7. Rose Noir I would edge ahead of the Patriots. However, it does depend on hero synergy, but I think individually Rose Noir just offers a lot more than Patriot. And then we have the fighters. I would probably place that as a 7, but the weighting is more towards Prophet being that excellent, highly rated hero. And then Lone Wolf just really dragging it down for an overall balanced 7 rather than the average quality of the shooters here. For the overall pool quality, it's such a tough one. But I think I would have to give it a 7 with everything considered. Kamikaze in this is going to be a really exciting hero should you be able to pick him up, but you are going against the odds. It is kind of a 1 in 6, 2 in 6 when you're looking at Kamikaze and Prophet being the best picks of this drop. Very risky in terms of the probabilities, and I would suggest having more tickets as additional buffer to land those 2 heroes. I've seen those that only pull few tickets that get Kamikaze, which is great, and I've also seen people pull over 300-400 tickets and not land a single copy of them. Giving yourself more chances in this means you are going to get the hero that you are looking at. I would say the overall worth personally for you is going to be higher if you already have some of these heroes. So if you did decide to drop in the larger pools, but if you already have a Kamikaze, a Prophet, Organic, Rose, Patriots, then even if you don't land the heroes that you wanted, you're still going to get copies of them to develop and upgrade your APCs. It really depends on hero synergy, but objectively, I would say this is a very risky pool, not necessarily tuned to the same high rewards of Death Rider and Nomad in last week's drop, but Kamikaze and Prophet still being very attractive rewards that you would still want to drop tickets in here. That also confirms the final heroes in Hero Drop 6, the last of the smaller pools. And just to give you confirmation of what those heroes will be in the final week, they are the Huntress, Canoness, Koshe, Hunk, Sven, and Predator. So very strong pull there. When I mentioned personally about why I had high interest in this pull, not only because I did want Kamikaze, it's also because I decided to pick up a SX ticket from the DD shop. Now, thanks a lot to everyone who shared their votes in the quick poll I did on my YouTube. I think we had around 60 votes, which was a great turnout. So let's bring that up. And it's a great way for me to interact and engage with you all. So yeah, 58 votes. I decided I was kind of contemplating how should I spend my DD shop, and the overwhelming majority, well, I would say half of the people voted Captain Ivanov, who I think is an absolutely incredible buy. And then it was Tech Priestess maxing her out, an SX ticket random in group 2 at 16%, and then Hummingbird with Major Anna coming in last. So that was a really interesting, and it was a great, like, 58 other people's opinion. Captain Ivanov has been really working for me in my force tiling APC, and it will definitely give me more of an edge. I'd probably say we're not really going to finish with too many SX tickets in this first Eden Dissidia, just with how Eden is playing out. Captain Ivanov definitely a long game, but also getting SX tickets, giving me more options, would allow me to be more strategic and focused going forward. And like I say, with having few tickets in my rewards, then I decided to risk it for that chocolate biscuit and pick up an SX ticket. With many people saying Captain Ivanov is 100% the right decision, and yes it is, but there is also the chance of, if you do land the right hero in SX ticket, gonna be a game changer. I decided to play on that 112 or 212 risk of picking the hero that I wanted, so a lot at stake. I was pretty nervous. So this video is going to be a little bit long, but I think it's worth it, just context of how it all comes together. These were the 12 heroes: Glutton, Wrath, Prophet, Kamikaze, Lone Wolf, Canoness, Heaven's Redemption, Death Rider, Crusher, Valkyrie, Sven. It's a very strong grouping, and of course Death Rider would be the top pick of getting a duplicate, but I've always had my eye on Kamikaze. I know his potential, his worth. So if I even did get a single copy of him, that would be great. But to be honest, there's probably most heroes in here that I would be happy with, even though they weren't my first picks, that add value to my APC or just how I see, you know, playing Eden and so forth. So those were the heroes. I risk it for the chocolate biscuit, and here's how it turned out.
Yes! 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 Come on, come on! Yeah! Damn. I'm so happy. Worth it, worth it.
Whoo! Man, so worth it. You can clearly see how happy I was. I did it really late in the morning, and I was really just thinking about it, that I kind of wanted to just do it and just see what I land, and praying and hoping, and thankfully the luck gods, the RNG gods looked down upon me, and I pulled Kamikaze. So I was super happy, especially with, you know, ticket RNGs. Luck hasn't always been my side, but on where it mattered, this was it. So out of all of the 12, I did pull Kamikaze, which is why I was particularly interested in this pull. So very happy with that, as you could tell. But now that we've got that out of the way, let's have a quick talk about the heroes themselves. So Prophet, I highly rate her. She is interesting because she's a support hero. She does have a range that allows her to pull off from the back, and that's going to be interesting also. But I think, and she has 2 combat skills and 1 prep skill, so you would kind of want her in the back looking at that. But her support skills means that she's also playable in the mid row, and I would actually prefer her in there because her support skills really works well to get additional damage coming through. So fortune telling, it marks 1 random enemy squad, and with that reduces troop recovery by 70%. It is flat out, but it's great. It's also a prep skill, so activates in the background, and then it afflicts a debuff based on the marked squad's troop type. So if they are fighters, all enemy squads take plus 20% more damage. If it's a shooter, all enemy squads deal minus 40% less normal attack damage. And if it's vehicles, they deal minus 30% less skill damage. So something to clarify is based on the troop type of who Prophet marks, then it will apply that debuff to the rest of the troop. That her Chains of Fate is what makes her a very strong support hero, and if you saw my token shop video which had Venom Walker and Commissar, it's kind of what Commissar's linked effect should have been that could have made him better, but here we have it in Prophet and is what makes her shine. It is that 50% chance to link one random enemy squad with a marked squad for 2 turns. With that, they deal 50%, so half of the damage that they receive to the linked squad, which is huge. So you pair her up with a really big damage dealer or glass cannon, and this support is really going to bolster that attack to another enemy squad, which I think is really... It is a combat skill, so it can be countered in the mid row, so it's more vulnerable, which is why having the options of putting her in the back or the mid row is great. And then we also finally have Soul Bombardment, which gives a +1 charge each time a friendly squad casts a combat skill. When it accumulates 6, it deals a huge 750% damage to the marked squad and suppresses them for 1 turn. So you can see this one is definitely focused on a combat skill type of APC. So if you combine her well with heroes that are triggering very frequently or have more combat skills in their artillery, and then this skill is going to shine much more. And so that is Prophet. Next up we have Rose Noir. So she also has like a marked skill set for each normal attack that Rose Noir's squad deals. When it accumulates to 7, all enemy squads will be dealt 400% damage for a total of 1200%. So I think damage numbers really good. Kind of similar to Shadow Evasion stack or Wrath's Reflective Armor Charge stack. So it has that. You can see she's more basic troop attack focused. So any heroes that increases the number of basic attacks will make the most of her, such as Predator. 35% chance, which is pretty decent, for an additional normal attack each turn, lasts 2, immune to disarm for the duration of the status. So again, a very good skill, complements her naturally by giving her an additional basic attack. Add her with a Predator, you're getting an insane amount of basic attack charge to release her well. And she's immune to disarm for the duration of the status for 2 turns, so I think that's also good at protecting her if you're up against those that can disarm. Plus 50% damage, which I'd expect since Rose Noir is going to be in the back row. And then finally we have Fatal Erosion, which is kind of the chance draw like the Betrayed. 35% chance, which is pretty decent. She can apply any of these skills after every 2 normal attacks that she deals, which is going to be very frequent. Disarm, silence, confuse, interrupted, or troop recovery blocked. Very good. We don't know how much troop recovery block she's dealing, whether that's 100% or not. I'm just going to assume 100%, in which case it's very good. And the probability is determined independently for each effect, so it could be dynamic, which means that you might have a high probability of 1, and then in the next turn that might be much lower in the next. Applies for 1 turn, so that's where kind of her inconsistency is. They are still very strong counters nonetheless. It is only for 1 turn, but considering this is going to trigger frequently, she has a bit of that counter in her, as well as a very good damage also. She is bested by Nomad as the de facto top tier shooter hero in the back, but if you don't have him, Rose Noir with a right hero synergy is still going to be an excellent hero. So while I kind of say she's a very solid hero, if you get the right hero, she can be very strong. Next up we have Organic. He's a support hero for vehicles, and you primarily want him in the mid row, so another placement alternative to Heaven's Redemption or Wrath. Based on his skill range, he is versatile to place anywhere, so you could have him in the front row, in the back row. Really depends on your hero synergy, but I think his ideal placement can come in the mid when you have, say, Kamikaze in the front and then Death Rider in the back. So looking at his skills, combat skill 40%, which is very good. He attacks twice to 1 enemy, and each of them deal 348. Skill 5, Hard Pursuit. All friendly squads deal plus 70% damage to silence, disarmed, suppressed, and confuse the enemy squads. This part is huge. So if you pair him with heroes that are dealing high counters, like S4 Caesar, or just, you know, anyone that delivers either of those counters, that plus 70% damage is huge. And enemies also have a 30% chance to extend 1 turn duration when silenced, disarmed, suppressed, and confused, keeping that conditioning active, so his plus 70% will still be present. It is a prep skill, so it's just activating from the turn of battle, and when that kicks in, then that plus 70% applies. When they're no longer in that counter status is removed. So I think extending that for another turn makes this a very strong self-supportive type of skill. He does 15% increased damage, and his skill 8, Wild Charge. 2 random enemy squads within range deal 30% less damage, and then on turn 4 these squads become confused, attack and cast skills on random targets. You can see he not only increases the amount of damage that enemies receive, but he also reduces the damage output. And I like the guaranteed counter on turn 4, where he confuses the enemies and they could attack and cast randomly for 2 turns. So a very strong skill 8. You can see it's loaded to the first half of battle, but with all the conditions in place, he could be very strong. So he's got a nice mix of really good combat damage output, enemy debuffs, and counters, which makes him ideal for a mid-row. So, and then next up we have Lone Wolf, who is going to be the Joker of the drop. Again, I've done some videos of her in the larger pool, but she is a back row fighter hero. She's not unreasonable or really terrible. That award goes to the Wanderer. Pretty lacking in her overall skill quality. That just doesn't hold a candlelight to the other SX heroes. Explosion Protocol. This triggers every turn. It is a combat skill, so it can be countered. But in essence, she disarms herself pretty much like a countdown. Doesn't give herself as big of a buff, but still gives a 30% increased damage for 2 turns, and it deals 436% damage at the same time. Skill 5, Weakening Protocol. It's a 1-turn prep, but has a very good 45% chance of triggering, and it deals just under 1000% damage to all enemies. So really good damage output there. Good alternative. And then finally, Termination Protocol. This skill isn't as effective. Fighters countering damage to vehicles by 30% and a 70% chance to ignore 50% of the enemy squad's base resistance. So kind of like a minus 50% resistance debuff of their skill 4. And provided you're up against vehicles who generally have more of an advantage than fighters, kind of makes them less effective than normal. So overall, she's alright. Like, she's still gonna deliver good damage, and I would say higher damage output as an offensive back row than Venom Walker, who's more defensive. Again, she's going to be replaced as soon as you pick up Scarlet Siren. But yeah, she's kind of the dud of this drop and the lowest baseline. Hey, she's still decent though. Next up, we have the top pick of this drop, and that is Kamikaze, which I know a lot of you have been waiting for. Oh no, someone picked up Commissar. They didn't watch my video. If you haven't yet watched, make sure you watch my S4 token shop video. So yeah, like I mentioned, with my SX ticket, I did pick up Kamikaze, which I was super ecstatic about. And there's every good reason why, if you do pick up Kamikaze, he's really that good and someone that you want to target to develop. Having a look at skills, countering storm is a status skill, so it just triggers as and when it's set. It just triggers as and when the conditions are right. When a self squad is taking damage, a 50% chance to deal 2 random enemy squads within the range of 2. Countering storm is actually very strong, considering he's going to be the front row taking damage. When he is taking damage, this is going to pop off a lot, and that 50% chance is also very high. This is kind of a counter attack with a linked combined, which makes this very strong. So he is going to hit back, and also there's going to be a ripple damage to the enemy squad in the mid row. Numbers very strong. and is what makes him great offensively. Bloodthirst, which is a healing skill. It is a status effect, so it's not a combat that needs to trigger, which is great. It's just going to trigger as and when. I find this triggering very frequently, pretty much nearly every damage that happens, kind of like Tech Priestesses, so a very strong healing for vehicles. The recovery rate is also insane. I kind of got him so it doesn't show the max, but I believe it was 96%. So you're going to recover a huge amount per turn, which makes him crazy. For his skill 6, we got that 120 vehicle combat speed, so it means that he is going to be ahead of the loop of most heroes, whether they are vehicles or not, or at least keep him toe to toe to activate quicker in a turn. And then finally, One Man Legion. This is enemy debuff, 40% chance, which is good. Oh, someone picked another commissar. Minus 30% damage taken for the self squad, so he also reduces the amount of damage that he receives while still delivering very high counters and high healing. And then he takes 30% of damage, siphoning it from the enemy and then applying them to 2 other friendly squads for 2 turns. So very good. I think that's 15% split across the 2 friendlies from the 30 total. And yeah, overall just makes him an exceptional vehicle hero. Honestly, he's super strong. If you come up with Kamikaze in any kind of formation, you're gonna have such a tough time. He is beatable, but to be honest, it's going to take something very special, or if he's not got the strongest kind of hero synergy or top tier heroes behind him, then that's kind of when you can take him on. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of trouble with just having Kamikaze in there. So definitely a must pick, and hopefully you do pick him up in this pool. Finally, we have Patriots. Patriots, who is a back row shooter hero. He's interesting. He's a combination and a kind of a similarity to other heroes. He is a free turn, front-loaded type of shooter, pretty much like Valkyrie, whose skills are in the first 3 turns. Panther S2, who's also first 3 turns with his splash damage and counter-attacking. You kind of get all of that here. So skill 2, fixed bayonet, first 3 turns. Front shooter squad has 70% chance to enter counter-attacking state, which deals 250% return damage to the source when basic attacked. Pretty much exactly like S2 Panthers. Only difference being is that Patriot is naturally in the back row, so this just actually gives you more damage output for your front row hero versus Panther, who was a front row hero that if you inverted it, then allowed like Captain Ivanov to deal that high attack damage. So this is kind of more naturally set in their position. Skill 5 of volley is a 1-turn prep, 35% chance, which is still decent, and it deals just under 1000% damage across all 3 enemies, which is good. Lowers their might resistance, tactical resistance by minus 38%, which is huge, lasting 1 turn. So even though it does have a 1-turn prep, the damage output, but also mainly that enemy debuff, is insane, and it's kind of worth it, which means at maximum chance it can apply for 4 turns, and it will only apply kind of in the turn that this hits. So it really depends if he's going to be higher up the pecking order for the skills to apply behind him, if there are heroes behind. But if they're all very fast with their combat speed, then this could be kind of wasted. Awakening plus 50% damage, and then look sharp. For the first 3 turns again, 2 random friendly squads have a 70% chance to become sober, which is kind of like your clear-minded or clarity status, immune to silence, disarm, suppress, confuse, and has a 55% chance to increase might. So this is very good, all very front loaded, and gives great protection to your front and mid row heroes. I like that, even though as a back row hero you kind of want consistent damage, in which he only has his his 1-turn prep volley to be that consistent hitter outside of the 3 turns. By front loading a lot of the first turn, then it's kind of hoping a lot of damage comes through. In the right conditions and with great hero synergies like Valkyrie, and Inquisitor, he could be very good. But in isolation, he's decent. You just need to have the right heroes around him to make the most of it. So sorry that was a long video, but that was S5 Hero Drop 5. Should you be pulling your tickets on this? Very risky, I will say, if you were like me, where you did pull in the larger drops because you wanted to see what heroes you had lined up. It does make this more worth it. The heroes themselves, it's kind of across the spectrum, but you do get probably more than, I would say, 3 or 4 of the 6 heroes you would still be happy to get. And if it means more duplicates for your S6 heroes to make them usable, then that's always a good byproduct. But of course, the aim is either going to be Kamikaze or Profit. Stronger reasoning if you do have a Kamikaze, but you would want a healthier stack of tickets. Otherwise, it becomes extremely risky if you only have a small number of tickets, and a Kamikaze is kind of the only it's kind of the only hero you're interested in. So if you have a large amount of tickets, if you have these heroes already, then I would say go for it. You know, take confidence. There is goodness no matter whether you pull the heroes you want or not. If you don't, it's really if you're willing to take the gamble and the risk. I took a lot of risk by not taking Captain Ivanov in the DD shop and having the SX ticket, and thankfully I did get Kamikaze. However, looking at this hero selection, I also don't have many tickets, but I think Hero Drop 6 is looking to be very strong. So I'd like to pick Kamikaze, but with the heroes that I have in line, I wouldn't mind dropping in the next pull. So thanks a lot for joining me, Team KBA. I hope you found it useful, insightful. Sorry it's a long video, but I hope you found a lot of good nuggets understanding these heroes, whether you should pull your tickets, and a little bit of fun of, you know, my own personal pulling of getting Kamikaze. So thanks a lot for joining me. That wraps up the video. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't yet, join the Team KBA community by subscribing to my YouTube channel, and check out OneTechTraveler.com for more stories, articles, and videos around tech, travel, and gaming. I'll see you in the next one, but until then, keep being awesome. Peace.